I am absolutely going to testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being, and it's going to pay.
I think that I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
It's no longer just a courtroom drama. This Diddy trial has morphed into an absolute monster, ripping through the polished veneer of Hollywood and exposing something far darker than anyone dared to imagine. What began as one woman's chilling account of alleged abuse has spiraled, pulling in federal investigators, unheard audio recordings that are apparently making seasoned lawyers go pale, and a cascade of old footage that's dragging some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry into a terrifying spotlight. The internet is practically melting down with speculation, whispers are echoing through every street corner, and you can bet the individuals caught in this vortex are replaying every single decision they've ever made, wondering how they got here. So, what exactly has erupted in these last few days to turn this already explosive situation into a full-blown catastrophe? After weeks of the prosecution meticulously detailing Cassie's alleged ordeal, the reported abuse, those infamous freak-offs, and Diddy's suffocating control, the entire case took a sharp, almost unbelievable turn. Insiders and hushed online leaks are painting a picture of a courtroom utterly transfixed, not by testimony, but by audio recordings. And these aren't just any tapes. We're talking about allegedly raw, undeniably explicit audio that reportedly features Diddy himself, alongside names like Will Smith and Meek Mill. This isn't some fleeting social media rumor destined to evaporate by sunrise. This is material reportedly being presented in open court, sending seismic shockwaves through the legal and entertainment worlds.
Do you think the person that you of then was on a path of self-destruction?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%, yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying, that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully, but yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful...
Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie For the Times of Their Lives? Like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full.
Young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun. Now all of a sudden he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did. The allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher. As we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew. This was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to? allegedly up to. That seems to be very clear.
The fuse was lit with that now infamous hotel lobby video that surfaced a while back. Silent, grainy footage, disturbing on its own, but many assumed that was the extent of the visual bombshells. But now, sources buried deep within the proceedings are claiming that behind those closed courtroom doors, the accompanying audio was played, and it plunged the entire room into a heavy, stunned silence. Imagine it. Phones confiscated, journalists barred from recording, just an absolute oppressive stillness as the sounds filled the air. One individual who was reportedly present described the audio as undeniably graphic, male on male, the kind of content that freezes a room solid because every single person in that space instantly knew they'd heard something profoundly serious, something that couldn't be unheard. And if that wasn't enough to make your jaw hit the floor, the narrative gets even more twisted. Immediately following this audio playback, a list of new witnesses was unveiled. And these aren't opportunistic clout chasers looking for their 15 minutes. We're talking about former bad boy artists, ex-staff members, people who were once part of Diddy's innermost circle, individuals who toured with him, who partied at his opulent mansions. These are people who allegedly saw things, heard things, and might have stayed silent for years, possibly out of fear or loyalty, but are now reportedly prepared to speak under the solemn protection of the law.
Yeah, so, yeah. I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, I mean, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, you know, and like.
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, like, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life. So.
In time, let's talk about the fact that Combs' co-defendant in a civil case, a case, by the way, that accuses him and this co-defendant, another A-lister, of rape. This guy is once again slamming the attorney behind the case, insisting that he be sanctioned for allegedly not doing his job. We're talking, of course, about Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, once again calling out attorney Tony Busby, calling out his character, more specifically into question, claiming that the Texas attorney's filings have, quote, substantial. Now, we've talked about this before, but basically, a civil lawsuit was filed against Sean Combs on behalf of a Jane Doe who says that she was raped by Combs and another celebrity at a home after the Video Music Awards in 2000.
One of those voices belonged to Dawn Richard, a name you might recall from Danity Kane, one of Diddy's former girl groups. She recently testified and was later photographed looking utterly drained, her face a mask of exhaustion and shock as she navigated a storm of paparazzi outside the courthouse. Whispers from inside suggest her testimony was damning, reportedly corroborating Cassie's claims and painting a picture of Diddy's alleged terrifying behavior. She apparently recounted a specific incident where, after witnessing Diddy allegedly beat Cassie because his food wasn't ready on time, he confronted Dawn and her bandmate the very next day. He didn't just ask for their silence, he allegedly threatened them, chillingly stating that what they saw was merely passion, and that people who spread stories about him often end up missing. That's not just hearsay. That's reportedly part of the official court transcripts, a cold, hard record of alleged intimidation at the highest level. Then, there's the image of Diddy's own daughter exiting that same courtroom. If you needed a single, stark visual to underscore the gravity of this situation, her expression was it. No defiance, no attitude, just a blank, pale face, utterly silent, eyes downcast. Even the usually relentless paparazzi seemed to hold back. No shouted questions piercing the heavy air. Sources claim her reaction was a direct consequence of hearing that alleged audio, a detail that only amplifies the deeply disturbing nature of what might have been revealed within those walls. The fallout from this stretches far beyond Diddy's personal legal jeopardy. This is about reputations being systematically dismantled, a family legacy teetering on the brink of collapse, and a tangled, horrifying web of secrets that seems to ensnare some of the most recognizable faces in the world.
Close enough saw his face transform. It was already too late.
14 years old, and I should mention he was signed by Usher to a label that was owned jointly by both Scooter Braun and Usher, and he was considered Usher's protege. He has been described Usher as his mentor. The Bieber, Justin Bieber, is continuing the purge. He has now moved to his original mentor. So this is a very big story, and the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing, Hollywood Babylon, that is. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish. And Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me, but at the end of the day, I'm never gonna force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing, and if she ever needs me, I'm gonna be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything.
Will Smith's name wasn't just a casual mention in the Diddy saga. It was reportedly directly linked to that explosive audio. And the moment that connection hit the headlines, the internet, as it always does, went into an absolute frenzy. Suddenly, every old clip, every awkward red carpet interview, every podcast snippet featuring Will and Diddy together was being exhumed and dissected under a harsh, unforgiving new light. An old interview with comedian Luenell, where she casually, almost throwaway, mentioned Diddy and Will clapping each other's cheeks, suddenly went viral. Most had missed it or dismissed it the first time around, but now, in this supercharged atmosphere, it exploded across social media. Memes were born, and the speculation began to snowball into an avalanche of theories. But the rabbit hole only got deeper and considerably darker. Fans started revisiting old footage of Will with his son, Jaden Smith. Those once-seen affectionate father-son kisses, the overly playful energy that many had previously brushed off as quirky, were now being rewatched through a completely different, deeply unsettling lens. Voices online began to express a growing discomfort, a feeling that something was profoundly off. The public commentary shifted from lighthearted amusement or confusion to genuine, palpable unease. Then came the moment that can only be described as a nuclear detonation in this unfolding drama. Brother Bilal, a man claiming to be Will Smith's former assistant, dropped his own set of allegations, making it infinitely harder for anyone to dismiss the swirling rumors as mere gossip. He claimed to have personally witnessed Will engaging in explicit acts, even graphically describing a moment where Will allegedly touched another man intimately. But that wasn't even the most shocking part of his claims. Bilal went on to assert, in no uncertain terms, that he once walked in on Will Smith and actor Dwayne Martin in an undeniably compromising position. He described the scene vividly. "I opened the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne having anal sex with Will. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up." His words, stark and unambiguous, sent another wave of shock across the internet.
And weeks after the initial filing, Busby submitted an amended complaint naming Jay-Z as the celebrity who allegedly participated. They wanted copies of these videos for themselves. And I've talked to lawyers about this before. There's a big advantage to having the electronic video, the electronic evidence yourself, right? You don't have to always go over to the other office. You can view the materials on your own. It's a way to better prepare for your defense. And Sean Combs' lawyers argue that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, electronic data that is in the government's possession, Judge Subramanian denied the defense's motion to amend the protective order, but without prejudice, meaning this issue could be revisited. So Subramanian's order reads, quote, "While the government objects to handing the videos over, they provide several options for a defendant to consider that would permit the defense to view the videos access the information they're looking for, and even allow them to manipulate the video.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make a difference.
After Brother Bilal unleashed that bombshell about Dwayne Martin, the online world essentially transformed into a global, crowdsourced crime scene investigation unit. People weren't waiting for mainstream media to catch up. They were already deep in the digital trenches, unearthing every photo, every video clip, every archived interview where Diddy and Will were seen together. Award shows, private parties, industry events, casual hangouts. The visual evidence of their close association began to pile up, creating a stark, uncomfortable contrast to the carefully cultivated family man image Will Smith had projected for decades. Then, Will attempted to quash the escalating rumors with a firm public denial. "I ain't nowhere near that man," he stated, adding, "I did none of that, stupid." Except his denial seemed to backfire spectacularly. The instant those words hit the internet, Twitter and Reddit were flooded with receipts. A deluge of photographs and videos showing him and Diddy very much near each other, laughing, hugging, looking like the best of friends. The evidence was overwhelming, and for many, it wasn't just about suspicion anymore. It felt like a direct, deliberate lie. And this is where Meek Mill gets dragged even further into this rapidly expanding quagmire. His name, too, reportedly surfaced during the courtroom playback of those alleged freak-off tapes. Once that news broke, it was utter chaos. Unlike Will Smith, who at least attempted a measured, albeit widely disbelieved denial, Meek Mill appeared to go into a complete public meltdown. His Twitter feed became a relentless, almost hourly barrage of defensive, often erratic posts. And ironically, the more he tweeted, the more desperately he tried to clear his name, the more convinced many people became that there was indeed something significant he was trying to hide. The truth is, Meek Mill's name has been entangled with Diddy's for years, often in a way that raised eyebrows. Fans have long joked about their dynamic, coining an array of nicknames for Meek, from the relatively benign Diddy's intern and pocket puppet to far darker, unrepeatable slurs. At the time, most of this was dismissed as standard internet trolling, the kind of baseless speculation that thrives in online forums. But now, in the glare of the federal investigation and the alleged audio tapes, those old jokes are being unearthed and re-examined, not as humor, but as potential pieces of a disturbing puzzle that are finally, chillingly clicking into place. And of course, the internet detectives dug up receipts on Meek, too. One particularly viral video showed him at a lavish party hosted by billionaire Michael Rubin, looking almost childlike and profoundly awkward. Observers pointed out how uncomfortable he seemed, as if he were trying to laugh off something deeply unsettling. But the energy in the clip felt entirely wrong, strained. A voice in the background can even be heard laughing, seemingly taunting him, adding another layer of unease to the scene. Then, there's the infamous clip of Diddy throwing Meek a birthday party. It seems innocuous at first glance, until you notice the background filled with shirtless men lounging by a pool. And then, Diddy, on camera, calls Meek Daddy, showering him with pronouncements like, "Proud of you, I love you, I appreciate life, Daddy." The internet, predictably, did not let that one slide. Daddy became an instant, inescapable meme, haunting Meek's every online move. Every time he posted something attempting to project his usual tough guy image, fans would immediately flood his replies with that clip, a constant, mocking reminder. When he went on a particularly aggressive rant declaring, "I'm not fruity, stop playing with me," the responses were a tidal wave of screenshots, old tweets, and videos of him looking undeniably cozy and familiar with Diddy, effectively drowning out his protestations. But what's truly keeping people utterly transfixed, what's fueling this relentless, almost obsessive online investigation, is the profound enigma of the actual audio itself. Despite the detailed secondhand accounts, despite the courtroom drama, not a single second of these alleged recordings has leaked to the public. There's no shaky cell phone recording smuggled out, no whispered snippet posted to a dark corner of the web, not even a blurry still image captured from the courtroom during the playback. There's only the descriptions from those who were supposedly inside. Explosive, graphic, game-changing. And it's precisely this pervasive silence, this complete absence of concrete evidence for the public to hear, that makes the situation so deafeningly loud, so deeply unsettling. Everyone is hearing about how damning it is, how explicit, but no one outside those courtroom walls has actually heard it for themselves. One insider's description, which has circulated widely, alleges that the audio captures a man being assaulted while Diddy can be heard laughing callously in the background. That's the horrifying level of detail being whispered about, painting a truly monstrous picture. There was even a fleeting, though largely debunked, rumor that someone possessed a recording of Meek Mill and Diddy engaged in an intimate act. Whether that was a genuine leak attempt or simply someone chasing clout in the midst of the frenzy is debatable. But the very fact that such a rumor could gain even momentary traction demonstrates the fever pitch of speculation and the desperate public hunger for any piece of this hidden puzzle. And the continued refusal of the authorities to release any part of this audio is only amplifying the suspicion, hardening the belief that something extraordinary is being concealed. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. In the American legal system, evidence in a criminal trial, especially evidence purported to be this crucial, isn't typically hidden away from public scrutiny without a profoundly compelling reason. Journalists have already begun to ask the hard, pointed questions. If this audio is so central to the case, so damning in its content, why is it being kept under such tight lock and key? Why can't the public hear what is potentially being used to determine someone's guilt or innocence, especially when that someone is a public figure of Diddy's stature? In a justice system that supposedly prides itself on transparency, this pervasive silence feels heavy, deliberate, and, frankly, suspicious. Some will argue quite reasonably on the surface that it's about protecting the identities or the dignity of those involved, particularly if there are victims whose privacy needs safeguarding. Others, however, whisper a more cynical theory that the audio is simply too explosive, that it implicates too many powerful and famous names, that there's an invisible hand of influence working behind the scenes, desperately trying to shield certain individuals or even entire networks from the devastating fallout. If this material, these alleged tapes, ever truly surface in their entirety, the consequences could be cataclysmic. It might not just tarnish reputations, it could obliterate careers that have been decades in the making, shatter lucrative endorsement deals, spark a maelstrom of lawsuits, and potentially drag in a host of other prominent figures who, until now, have remained unnamed and untouched by this scandal. And that, perhaps, is the truly terrifying undercurrent of this whole saga. If Diddy, Will Smith, and Meek Mill are merely the tip of a vast submerged iceberg, who else is caught in this potentially devastating undertow waiting to be exposed? We are witnessing in real time the very public, very messy unraveling of an individual who has been an undeniable fixture in the global spotlight for decades, someone who, for the longest time, seemed utterly untouchable, Teflon-coated against any scandal. But Diddy was always more than just a music mogul. He was intricately woven into the very fabric of hip-hop, television, fashion, and broader pop culture. He meticulously cultivated that bad boy for life image, the extravagant, celebrity-studded parties, the vote or die political activism, the carefully curated friendships with billionaires and presidents. But now, all of that painstakingly constructed facade, that empire of image, is crumbling before our very eyes, brick by painstaking brick. What's truly unsettling, and perhaps a sobering lesson for us all, is how many people are now looking back, connecting the dots and saying, we should have seen this coming. Because in hindsight, the alleged red flags, the warning signs, were arguably always there, often hidden in plain sight. From his reported intense, almost suffocating control over his artists, to those bizarre, rambling interviews where he'd insert long, uncomfortable pauses after almost every sentence, as if he were half joking, half concealing something much darker. Or consider how so many artists who were once under the bad boy umbrella seem to end up either creatively stifled, financially damaged, or simply vanishing from the public eye altogether. Mace, The Lox, Day 26, the list is disturbingly long. Aubrey O'Day, another former Danity Kane member, has been trying to sound the alarm about Diddy's alleged conduct for years, and it seems the courtroom is finally, belatedly listening, even if the wider public often dismissed her claims as bitter or attention-seeking at the time. And Don Richards' recent testimony, as reported, has added significant, damning weight to the terrifying idea that Diddy wasn't just a difficult or demanding boss, he was allegedly predatory, capable of instilling profound fear. Her corroboration of Cassie's account, delivered in a formal legal setting, is a powerful, potentially devastating blow to Diddy's already battered defense. And the emotional and reputational fallout isn't just contained to Diddy. Will Smith's already fragile public image, still reeling from the infamous Oscar slap, is now on even shakier, more precarious ground. People who might have defended him during that controversy, or at least offered him the benefit of the doubt, are now questioning his character, his judgment, and his past associations far more deeply and critically. Because if those alleged audio tapes are real, and if he is indeed featured on them in the manner described, this transcends a mere PR nightmare. This could be a career-ending catastrophe, a point of no return. As for Meek Mill, the internet has practically declared him guilty in the court of public opinion. He hasn't been charged with any crime, it's crucial to remember, but his frantic, often incoherent, defensive online behavior, those constant "y'all trying to ruin me" posts, have only served to fuel the widespread suspicion and accelerate the negative judgment. And that's the brutal, unforgiving reality of the digital age. Once your name becomes indelibly linked to something this dark, this scandalous legal innocence might not even matter in the long run. The perception battle for many is often already lost before any official verdict is reached. And yet, amidst all this chaos and revelation, the deafening silence from official channels persists. There's been no official statement explaining the delay in releasing the tapes, no public acknowledgement of their specific contents beyond the leaked summaries and courtroom whispers. This official reticence only serves to strengthen the prevailing theory that these tapes are simply too volatile, too dangerous to be unleashed upon the world. Perhaps the individuals on them wield too much unseen influence. Perhaps they are inextricably tied to complex, unseen power structures that operate in the shadows. Or maybe, just maybe, the government itself is navigating a treacherous political and social landscape, hesitant to fully pull the pin on a grenade that could cause unimaginable collateral damage across Hollywood and beyond. So, we find ourselves suspended in this strange, deeply unsettling limbo. The legal proceedings grind on, day by day. The internet, a relentless digital detective, continues to dig tirelessly for any scrap of information, any new clue. And the individuals allegedly involved, at least publicly, attempt to carry on as if nothing truly seismic is amiss, a facade that grows thinner and less convincing with each passing hour. But this charade, this state of suspended animation, cannot last forever. This isn't a story that will simply fade into the background noise, because the internet possesses a long, unforgiving memory, and an even longer, more pervasive reach. And when people feel, as many do now, that the truth is being deliberately, systematically concealed, their determination to uncover it, to drag it into the light, only intensifies. If these tapes, these alleged recordings of unimaginable acts, ever do fully surface, it could very well shake the very foundations of Hollywood's elite circles. Not just because of what Diddy himself allegedly did, but because of the terrifying question of who else might have been in that room, who else might have known, who else might have participated, and who else might have stayed silent. The velvet curtain, for so long shielding the inner workings of celebrity and power, is slowly, painstakingly being drawn back. And what lies behind it, what is gradually being exposed, might be far more disturbing, far more rotten than anyone could have ever truly imagined. We'll definitely be keeping a very close, unwavering watch, on how this monumental story continues to unfold, because one thing is certain: the repercussions are only just beginning. As wild and almost surreal as the celebrity name-dropping and the alleged explicit acts sound, the most profoundly disturbing aspect of this entire unfolding narrative is that very silence, that conspicuous void where the audio should be. We live in an era of leaks, where almost nothing stays secret for long. iCloud accounts are hacked, sensitive court documents find their way onto the internet, even classified government information sometimes surfaces. It seems almost inevitable that, eventually, everything comes out. But this time, with these alleged Diddy tapes, there's been nothing. Not a single solitary sliver has breached the walls of that courtroom. Not a distorted clip, not a muffled whisper, not even a pixelated screenshot. That complete and utter silence screams far louder than any actual sound could. And it has people asking one central, crucial, and increasingly urgent question: who or what is powerful enough to protect this? And that question, hanging heavy in the air, has cracked open an entirely new and far more ominous layer of speculation. Because let's be brutally honest, this trial stopped being solely about Diddy and Cassie weeks, if not months ago. This is now unearthing the potential existence of a network, a deeply ingrained, perhaps systemic culture of behavior operating behind the gilded gates of extreme fame and fortune. Something that might have been festering for years, decades even, completely unchecked and unchallenged. And the only reason it's even beginning to see the harsh light of day now is likely due to the relentless pressure of a federal investigation, and because the alleged survivors and insiders, perhaps emboldened by the legal shield, finally feel a semblance of safety, however fragile, in speaking their truths.